Very few friends are like, you know, boom, there for you, 100%. And I think I really only had one friend that was like that. Actually, two friends that was actually like that. Um, but all my other friends and wifey stuff, friendship was always conditional, you know. Um, but I could always feel that. I could always feel those energies. And then I was raised LDS and Mormon, and I grew up in quite the hypocritical family. You know, my mom, she was really devoted and very sincere and very um, uh, attached and bonded, embracing her religious beliefs and her involvement with the membership of her church. And my dad, he was a Jack Mormon. And my brother, he was kind of a Jack Mormon too, in a way, but he kind of fit in between like mom and dad, you know. Um, but um, you know, I'm not here to talk about uh, you know, all the uh, crazy life I grew up in regards to that. Um, but you, you know, even going to church and stuff and involved in Bible study classes and stuff like that, um, I could tell there was something, you know, um, invalid and false about what I was being taught, and religion. Growing up, religion was a really big conflict for me, and there's just so much hypocrisy, and it was always justified with the terms of forgiveness, and you go and basically disclose yourself with the bishop, and you know, and admit your sins or whatever, you know, what you've done wrong and stuff. They give you a blessing or whatever, and kind of give you a clean slate to move on. But um, really, it was just the belief system itself, and my parents were pretty cool about that because I had some friends and stuff that belonged to different denominations of Christianity, and they were cool with me going to their church and learning other different religions and stuff, and it's the same thing. So religion was a big conflict for me growing up. Um, but when I got in trouble, I started really looking at my life and you know, the path that I had chosen, the destructive path that I had chosen that got me to where I was incarcerated. And I come to a real hard fact conclusion that I needed to change my life around for the better. And I felt like I really needed something spiritual to embrace, but I wanted something that didn't require blind faith, something that was objective, something that, you know, I could see, I could feel, I could touch, I could, you know, interact with um, on an objective level. And I studied a lot of different um, uh, religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, you know. Um, and then I was introduced to witchcraft, Wicca, back in 1996. And I had a friend um, that I made, and me and this guy created a friendship. And he had some books on Wicca, and I was really interested. But growing up, we're all taught that witchcraft, we're taught all the false dogma about it. And so he borrowed me some of his books to read, and wow, it wasn't anything like I was brought up believing. And that again enforced a lot of my biases and discrimination towards Christianity, period, whatever denomination. And so, and I was really interested with it and stuff. Something happened during my learning process that totally changed my life around for the better, but totally changed my life around in such a supernatural, phenomenal way. Something happened to me. Divinely happened to me. So I began purchasing my own books, and I purchased the Big Blue Book, and I read the 13 Basic Principles and Beliefs. And when I read them, it was such a strong spiritual epiphany. I broke down. It hit me so hard because basically I've always been close to nature. Grew up in a very successful hunting family, camping family. We've always embraced nature. I was always brought up to respect it. And, and my mom knew a lot of the wild edible plants and stuff. I learned a lot of herbalism in regards to the wild edible plants in our local mountains and stuff and out in the deserts. And so we are a very, very nature-oriented family. And that's when I was about 14 years old. That's pretty much Mother Earth is pretty much what I began worshiping. She sustains it, She gives us everything to sustain us, to sustain life. And when I was reading these 13 Basic Principles of Beliefs, at that time I didn't have the knowledge and the wisdom to be able to articulate it like that. But that was basically my generic belief system. And so it hit me hard. It was such a strong spiritual epiphany, and that beyond words, I can't even explain it, and I'm not even going to attempt to, because it wouldn't give it any justice whatsoever in regards to the impact that it had on me. Something happened. Now my cellmates, at that time, Utah State Prisons was pretty laid back and kicked back in the 90s. It wasn't until the late 90s, a lot of gang activity and different things and stuff, but where I was down in Gunnison, Utah, it was really kicked back. It was all educational and stuff, and there was actually a Wiccan study class down there. It wasn't a worship, but it was a study class. But, and it was just all my cellmates and stuff really, really cool. And I never felt out of place or indifferent about doing my studies and my thing and what have you stuff. They were really cool with it and stuff, so I felt real comfortable. And so I was devoting from the time I woke up for lunch. Usually lunch came around about 6 o'clock. We'd have lunch, and then about around 7 o'clock, they would open up movement. And